Sneaky changed zombies are creeping into a bunker where the last group of humans are hiding. Let's go back a bit to see how this mess started. In a not too far off future, a bad virus called Mad Dog Disease appears. This virus is like a super strong cold. It spreads from animals to humans very quickly and turns people into zombies in just 90 seconds. Soon, most of the world's 7 billion people are zombies, and these are tough zombies. They can take a lot of damage and keep going, and they're not just wandering around, they're wildly attacking. Now, the world looks like something out of a horror movie, with zombie groups controlling the streets. The few humans left are safe in an underground military base, trying to stay ahead of the zombie disaster. The soldiers and some smart folks from the Centers for Disease Control are working hard to find a cure. They think they need the blood of the first zombie because it might hold the answers they need. To get clues, they have zombies locked up for study. Enter Morgan, our hero, who was bitten but didn't turn into a zombie. He has a special kind of blood that lets him talk to zombies. Working with Dr. Gina, he's trying to figure out the zombies. When they bring in a particularly wild zombie for a talk, they tie him up and play loud music. It turns out zombies hate music. Who knew? The zombie tries to get away, but it's no use. Once he's tired of the music, Morgan turns it off and starts talking in zombie language. He even gives the zombie a nickname, Joe, and learns Joe was one of the first infected in Minnesota. Morgan tries to connect with Joe by sharing how he also sometimes feels angry about the way the world is now. Colonel Knox, who's always tense, decides to suddenly speak loudly through the microphone. This interruption makes Joe, the zombie they were questioning, throw a big fit. Morgan, who was trying to talk to Joe, steps out of the glass room to give Joe a break. But Knox, who can't wait, wants the questioning to continue right away. Inside the room, Joe starts acting wildly, getting worse every second. Knox, getting angrier, loses his temper, and shoots Joe in frustration. This impulsive action makes Gina and Morgan very upset. Joe was their key to more clues. Gina even threatens to kick Knox out of his job if he does something like this in her lab again. Morgan, filled with anger, hits the glass wall, showing he also struggles with his own problems every day. Needing to calm down, he goes to the bathroom. Soon after, Gina joins him, offering support. Morgan uses the moment to talk about the huge stress he feels. Gina offers him some medicine to help, but Morgan says no, sharing that he's troubled by bad dreams about his wife who was also bitten by a zombie. In a moment of openness, they both talk about how much they miss the simple life before all this chaos. One thing leads to another, and they end up having a very close moment in the bathroom. When they come out, Knox sees them and makes a snide remark, hinting they like each other more than just as co-workers. Gina quickly responds, accusing Knox of being jealous, and puts him in his place. Meanwhile, Morgan, maybe seeking comfort or answers, walks further into the cells underground. He stops at a specific cell at the back, his next step important but unclear. The zombie in the back cell is Morgan's wife, Janet, who was bitten on the same chaotic day as him. Morgan, always hopeful, tries to give Janet an injection with a serum made from his own blood. It doesn't cure her, but it helps her think more clearly. At first, Janet refuses and knocks the syringe away, but after Morgan begs her, she softens, remembers the music they loved, and takes the shot. The next twist happens when the soldiers bring in a zombie they call Pete. As they try to strap him into the interrogation chair, Pete loses control. He breaks free and attacks the soldiers. Chaos erupts. Just in time, Dr. Scooter jumps in to help, but gets bitten on his arm. The team rushes him to the medical area, where Scooter pleads with them not to let him turn into a zombie. Without wasting time, they inject him with the serum, and Gina, in a bold move, cuts off his arm to stop the infection. Everyone waits, hoping they've saved him. They even start to celebrate when it seems Scooter might survive. But then, disaster strikes. Scooter goes into shock, and before they can secure him, he's acting like a zombie. Knox, always practical, decides to end Scooter's suffering with a shot, despite the others' shock and anger. As the soldiers clean up, Knox finds comfort in alcohol, hidden in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Gina is overwhelmed by the day's events, but Morgan supports her. They share a quiet moment at a memorial for Scooter's son, leaving a cupcake for a missed birthday. The story doesn't end there. The next day, filled with sorrow and anger, Morgan goes back to Pete. This time, he plays the music louder and longer, turning it on and off, caught in his own cycle of anger and frustration. When the questioning finally starts, Peter shares that he's from the cold lands of Minnesota and caught this strange disease back in October. But here's the twist. When they start asking him tough questions, Pete shuts down. He won't share any information. Now Morgan, who's already on edge, completely loses his temper and pulls a gun on Pete. But Pete, he stays calm, just stares Morgan down and says, Do it. Morgan can't stand the silence, so he leaves in a huff. Typical Pete, always a man of mystery. Later, we've got Gina and Morgan talking to General Pierce. They're like, listen, both Joe and Pete got sick in Minnesota, way before anyone else. Gina is very excited, wanting to send a team to Minnesota. She thinks that's where this whole mess started. But then Knox, always the downer, complains, we'll just end up losing more guys. Gina, though, she's not backing down. She explains that these zombies are not the usual kind. They're getting smarter and sneakier. Meanwhile, Morgan's visiting Janet, who's getting yet another injection. They start talking, and Janet realizes Morgan has a soft spot for both her and Gina. Morgan tries to keep it cool, saying Janet is his everything. But Janet? She's not convinced. She's scared, asking to be let go, saying she'd rather take her chances outside than be stuck in what feels like a never-ending nightmare. And here's more. While all this is going on, Morgan's mind keeps going back to the happy times with Janet. They were happy, dreaming of starting a family, even had their own special way of showing love. But while he's lost in these thoughts, Gina's busy taking his blood, going on about why he's the only one who doesn't turn into a zombie snack. Here, Gina has been very busy in the lab, trying to create a miracle cure. But so far, total failure. She's been experimenting on rats, but instead of improving, these rats are attacking each other like a chaotic sale day. Meanwhile, Morgan has this special blood that might be the answer. It kind of makes the zombies calm down for about 5 minutes. But just like the last piece of cake at a party, the piece doesn't last long. Now, while they're far from finding a cure and celebrating, Gina reveals shocking news. Janet's recovery is very uncertain. This really upsets Morgan, hitting him hard emotionally. And just when you think it couldn't get more dramatic, Gina picks this moment to tell Morgan she loves him. Perfect timing, right? But Morgan? He can't handle it. He leaves the room as fast as a cat in water. That night, Morgan's mind keeps replaying their worst night like a terrible movie. He and Janet were just driving through the city, maybe talking about something simple like dinner, when suddenly a zombie attack at the traffic lights. Zombies jump on their car, breaking windows and biting like they're sampling food. Morgan speeds up to escape them, but it's like they're drawn to them. They just keep coming. Fast forward to now. Morgan wakes up from this nightmare yelling. You can almost hear his heart racing. But wait, here's another twist. Gina finds out she's pregnant with Morgan's baby. What timing? She's upset, thinking she has no chance with Morgan's heart. Meanwhile, Knox and his team return from a mission, looking like they're in a funeral. They're about to cremate their fallen friends when suddenly, plot twist. One of the dead soldiers jumps up. It's not a soldier at all, but a zombie in disguise, and it starts attacking everyone. Knox is now trying to find the right moment to act the hero, while alarms are blaring as loud as fans at a concert. So there's this guy Knox, right? He's right in the middle of everything when suddenly one of his own teammates who's just turned into a zombie leaps at him. Knox, quick to react, handles him quickly. But hold on, because just then, another sneaky zombie, dressed as a soldier, jumps out. He's about to attack Knox, but out of nowhere, Morgan jumps in and pulls the zombie away. Talk about a close call. Now, you'd think the soldiers would want to destroy this zombie right away, but Morgan, he has different ideas. He thinks they should talk to Mr. Zombie. Knox, ready to act, points his gun at the zombie who, surprise, surprise, surrenders and wants to talk with Morgan. They take him to a glass cell and someone plays some music, thinking it'll bother him. But this zombie? Calm as can be, he just lights a cigarette like he's in an old detective movie. They find a school ID on him, and Morgan, always thinking, calls him the professor. Then the questioning starts. And let me tell you, this professor isn't just any regular zombie. He's making deep comments. He's been looking for Morgan, apparently a well-known figure among zombies. When Morgan asks him why the music doesn't bother him, the professor explains that zombies are as different as humans. He even suggests that Morgan's ability to communicate with zombies might be his unique zombie trait, which bothers Morgan. Nobody likes to be called a zombie. The professor acts all superior, claiming zombies are just the next step in evolution, openly destructive, much like humans. Then he shares his sad story. He was just a normal guy, teaching at the university, ignoring calls from his wife about the chaos at home. But when he steps out to talk, he turns back to see a mob of zombies breaking into his class. He tries to escape, but it's too late. Zombie students overwhelm him, and just like that, he becomes one of them. Still somewhat in control of his mind, he goes home only to find his family, and in a tragic turn, the virus takes over, and he ends up hurting them. Here goes. Morgan just heard a huge story from the professor, a zombie who talks more than people in a coffee shop. Morgan doesn't believe him, especially when the professor goes on about zombies being better than humans. He even ignores the idea of a patient zero, instead criticizing the government. This really annoys Morgan, and he loses his cool for a moment, hitting the professor before leaving the cell. Taking a moment, Morgan comes back, this time acting calm with a cigarette he got from someone else. But the professor, being sly, teases Morgan by mentioning Janet and claiming that zombies are the solution, not the problem. Morgan realizes that this zombie has been delaying, playing mind games to waste time. Catching on, Morgan pulls out a scanner to check the professor, but finds nothing. Suspicious, he rushes to check on Pete, sharing his suspicion that Pete's capture might be part of a zombie strategy. Realizing he's trapped, Pete makes a desperate move and knocks himself out. Morgan scans again and finds a hidden tracker inside a scar on Pete's body. It turns out Pete was captured on purpose to let the zombie group find the base's location. They're not just mindless, they're planners. Morgan hurries to alert Pierce, the leader, who hits the lockdown button. But it's a bit too late. Zombies break in before they can secure the defenses, leading to a nightmare scenario. Civilians get caught in the chaos with no chance for safety. Then, a clever zombie frees the prisoners, increasing the zombie numbers. As soldiers fight back with everything they have, it's clear they're outnumbered. Zombies push through, taking over everything. The chaos spreads fast through tunnels and labs, with people desperately trying to escape the zombie attack. In the middle of this chaos, Knox takes Gina away through a secret escape route, and Pierce follows close behind with zombies right behind them. As zombies swarm around, Knox makes a sudden move. He shoots Pierce. Sounds harsh, right? But Knox says it's all about survival, sacrificing Pierce to buy some time as he and Gina escape in the elevator. Gina, totally shocked, calls out Knox for his harsh action, but Knox is focused on doing whatever it takes to stay alive. Things get even more tense. Gina, determined as ever, stops the elevator. She has a mission. She needs to get back to her lab to grab her research samples. They could be everyone's last hope, but Knox doesn't agree. He tries to stop her, and during their struggle the gun goes off. Yep, you guessed it. Knox is now out of the picture. Meanwhile, as the base turns into a scene from a horror movie, another scientist sneaks into the rat lab, trying to stay hidden. But luck isn't on her side. A zombie breaks in, and in the chaos, the rat cages get knocked over. Now, we've got zombie-infected rats joining the chaos. Cut to Morgan, who's on a mission to rescue Janet. He grabs a fire axe for a little extra protection and runs into Gina. She's unsure about freeing Janet since those injections were just a temporary solution. But Morgan? He's not leaving without Janet. Just then, a zombie sneaks up on them. But Gina is quick. Bam! Zombie down. She says she's going back for her samples. The trio heads to the lab fridge. Gina's grabbing her important samples when another zombie attacks them. No problem. Morgan handles it with a quick swing of his axe. Just then, the professor, that talkative zombie, lets out a yell. And guess what? It's like a zombie signal. More zombies come rushing to his aid. The story intensifies as Morgan, Gina, and Janet crawl into the vents, dodging wires and hazards. As they're moving slowly, Gina sees a terrible scene through the grates. The area for civilians is a complete disaster. And just their luck, the grate breaks under their weight. Now, the zombies know exactly where to find them. So, our trio, Morgan, Gina, and Janet, are racing through the vents trying to escape. Suddenly, a zombie rat jumps out. Before you can say cheese, Janet catches the little pest and squashes it. Talk about dealing with pests. But their escape isn't easy. They soon find out that zombies are crawling through the vents after them. It's like a scary game of follow the leader. In a desperate act, Morgan kicks one of the zombies hard enough to break the vent, sending the zombie falling down. Morgan almost falls too, but Gina catches him just in time, saving him. Finally, they get to the parking lot, only to see the professor's zombie waiting for them. Plot twist. He's there to take out Morgan because, believe it or not, Morgan's blood is a threat to the future of zombies. Yep, Morgan is like the key person for zombies. A fierce fight breaks out. Morgan and the professor fight fiercely, using everything they can. The women try to help, but the professor pushes them away easily. The fight becomes rough, and Morgan ends up impaling the professor on a pipe. But it's a costly win. Morgan gets hurt too. As he's dying, the professor screams loudly, calling every zombie nearby to come over. Realizing they're in deep trouble, the trio decides to run. But here's the sad part. Janet chooses to be the hero and stay behind to stop the zombies. Morgan tries to argue, but Janet reveals another shock. She knows Gina is pregnant. She uses this news to lock the door behind her, forcing Morgan to leave with Gina. Morgan and Gina find an emergency tunnel that takes them to the woods. Despite hearing zombies nearby, Morgan remains hopeful. He shows his hidden bike, and they jump on it, racing through the forest with zombies left behind in the dust. And there you have it. Zombie rats, intense fights, and a motorcycle getaway. Just another day in zombie paradise.